What's a phrase men hate hearing from women? My mom does this, but I take it at face value. If you tell me I can, I will. I don't have time to waste on those types of games. That's what I did after my first relationship. I'm gonna completely ignore your bullshit games. If you tell me to do something, I do it, and you get mad, that's on you. Thankfully, once you start dating people who matured past high school, it goes away. This is fucking exhausting. If I have to guess what you mean, basically every time we talk or have a serious conversation that ain't happening. Like, man, don't restrict your own life just because your partner is on some toxic shit. Tell her, okay, I just wanted to see how you felt about me going. Since you're okay with it, I'll see you later. If she can't say what she's really thinking despite multiple opportunities, she's always going to find herself upset at something or someone. It's not bullshit games. It's just how people talk. When people say, "Oh my God," or "Jesus fucking Chris," do you think they're saying Jesus is fucking Christ? No, it's just how people talk. Everybody knows what "do whatever you want" means. You're just choosing to be ignorant or self-righteous. Either way, or whatever you claim to be doing, you're wrong. But I'm just a guy on the internet. Good luck playing that game. It often is bullshit games, actually specifically passive aggression, an attempt to goad the other person into a fight. The person using these passive aggressive verbal tactics feels like if they rope the other person into a fight with them, they can get what they want without actually just being open and honest about it. Glad you've never experienced this, but it's out there, and it isn't just semantics or how people talk. My ex used to drop this one all the time before going off about a girl that liked one of my pictures online, entirely neglecting the fact that we hadn't had S3X in like a month, let alone me with other people. I can't even get people who like me to talk to me. How TF am I going to get someone else to slob on my knob? What the fuck? My ex used to say these words and my stomach would flutter, knowing full well she was about to unleash some petty bullshit. As mentioned here, it's never ever even remotely funny. I wish I had the balls to mock, laugh, and claim, "Hey, you're actually quite the funny one," but I had to turn into a quasi-relationship lawyer on the spot instead. You mean, let me understand this, cause you know, maybe it's me, I'm a little faffed up maybe. But I'm funny, how I mean funny, like I'm a clown, I amuse you, make you laugh, I'm here to faff and amuse you. What do you mean funny how? How am I funny? Had an ex who got preemptively mad at me when one of her friends was gonna stay with us for a few weeks because she just knew that I was gonna cheat with her friend. Okay, first, why are you friends with somebody who would faff your boyfriend? Second, I had done nothing to damage the trust in our relationship, so I was annoyed that her trusting me wasn't just the default. Third, I discovered later on that she was cheating on me. Projection is real. It's always the jealous ones that are doing what they're worried you'll do. Your comment made me feel suspicious. I have a friend that is living in another country, and his fiancée, who is also my friend, always accuses him of cheating without no proofs at all. And I know for a fact he has not done anything. Now, your comment makes me think she might be the one cheating on my homie. I once dated a girl who got so mad after she went through my phone. She had found a short text exchange between me and another woman just saying Happy New Year's. No further communication. Not even a, "How are you, let's catch up soon." My ex really flipped her shit later, found out she was cheating. She was seeing the other guy while this happened. So I guess projection really does happen. I always wiggle my way out of that one, "she's beautiful," but and then bring up something apparent that would also be a turn off for her. "Your friend is cute, but she doesn't brush her teeth, so I couldn't," is an actual one I've used. But then, get in the car with them both and say, "And how are the two most beautiful women in town doing?" And I can mean it when I say it because they are cute. It baffles me how this is even a thing. I as a man am capable of not having an opinion or being completely neutral on whatever the topic is. I had just assumed that any human has this ability, but I guess not. 100% not hiding anything, I just don't care or have nothing to add. It really is that simple, or in the context of just sitting there silently frequently, I'm actually not thinking about anything. Probably just admiring my cat or trying to identify cars as they go by, or something completely superfluous like that. I spend all day solving problems and thinking about stuff for a living. It's nice to have a quiet mind when I'm not on task. Sometimes I sit and think about winning the lottery. Mega Millions is up to $1.1 billion. I allocate funds for retirement, kids' college, charity investing, etc. I have everything broken down in my head. Then I think about conversations I'd have with local youth sports clubs about donations. I never really think about me and the stuff I would buy. I figure that will just come naturally, but I plan out how to give money away to organizations I care about. This all takes place in my head and can zone me out for minutes at a time. My wife thinks I'm thinking about other women or dumb shit like that. I'm trying to be a humanitarian. I don't have time for strange women that might give me chlamydia. It's interesting to think about because if you brainstorm it enough, you start to realize how hard it would be an effective billionaire philanthropist. Too many uncritical yes men around you to line their pockets, and it would be a full-time job just trying to figure out which donees would actually fulfill the actions of their words. Sometimes I think about water freshly running across a blank slate of earth and carving its own path. The same, and the rock falling into line forming the patterns of the new stream. If shocking how much brain computing power this takes to render in detail, but also how relaxing. In the case where a topic is being discussed, the incredulity probably comes from a misunderstanding of your values or priorities. The assumption is that if something is important to you, you'll of course have an opinion, so if it's believed the topic is important, then it doesn't make sense for you to have nothing to say. Of course, it's also often the case that one person feels the topic should be important and can't understand why the other is acting like it isn't, while the other person can't understand what the big deal is at all. Traditionally, when men get uncomfortable and angry, they tend to resolve things with violence. Society has made this response unacceptable in the context of domestic relationships. When women get uncomfortable and angry, they tend to resort to verbal abuse, whether against other women or men or their partner. This abuse can sometimes be as traumatic over the long run as violence, and when you are vulnerable to your partner, which is what all relationships should endeavor to be, even more painful than violence. Too bad society has not risen to the level of teaching women that verbal abuse and emotional blackmail is unacceptable behavior, because men for sure know violence is unacceptable. I'm always thinking something, and I always have an opinion, but when I say what it is always immediately invalidated because men don't actually care what color our bathroom is painted. So I had this spectacular ear infection that made me go deaf for real. I could barely use the telephone to make an appointment a while back. Unless she becomes an audiologist unexpectedly, I'm the only one who'll know my hearing is as good as ever. I just respond to everything with, her mother and I do. The questions stop and I get points for a Steel Magnolias reference. But seriously, the color is hideous. It looks like the room was hosed down with Pepto-Bismol. My wife and I were eating in a hole-in-the-wall sandwich shop that was located near a power substation. I was facing the window looking out at all of the power lines crisscrossing outside when she asked what I was thinking. I lied and said, nothing. She pressed me, insisting I couldn't be thinking of nothing. I told her, this is what you get for asking a guy this question. I was marveling at all of the power lines outside, and was thinking Superman would have a hell of a time flying through something like that to rescue someone. She hasn't asked that since. You're damn right I'm hiding something. Usually when someone asks what I'm thinking, they catch me in the middle between thinking whether it's possible to 3D print a 10-micron precise linear actuator and wondering what dogs think about their owners farting. That's usually. Sometimes my thoughts can get even less palatable, along the lines of, why exactly is the sound of a slit throat the same as the sound of a clogged drain unclogging? Are you sure you want to join in? Because I'm hiding my thoughts for a good reason. The same reason that I don't sh*t in public. I am gay, and I'm also a bit of an intellectual, so I have an unbiased opinion on this. It's partly that they are being nosy. Because why the hell are they asking you what you think? That's your private thoughts, not theirs. And then the second part is just them being extra. They know damn well that you're not hiding anything. They are just trying to cause a conflict for the same reason they are being nosy. They are just way too wrapped up in your existence, and they need to mind their own business. On the other hand, men refuse to engage properly. Oftentimes so if someone is being extra and looking for arguments, it's probably because they're mad about something. But honestly, it could still just be them being unnecessarily mad. It really depends on the context, but I just always see guys pulling the silent maneuver then calling the female crazy because she doesn't appreciate that. I wonder if it's a coincidence that many stereotypically male activities, hunting, fishing, making stuff, many military activities, are all about two men doing things with very little conversation involved. I think it's more about violence. Fishing and hunting are killing animals. Military is about killing humans. Making stuff isn't about violence, but it's just generally a traditional role, and I think that tradition is based on suitability. If you have a man and a woman, one is physically stronger, so one is going to be giving the task of using physical strength. Like if you have a group of men, whoever is the best at cooking is the one who gets the job of being the cook for the camp. So I think that's why traditional roles turned out that way. I don't really understand the idea that men are supposed to hang out without talking. That sounds lame to me. I think you are fixated on it because you feel more valid when you feel more masculine, so you're looking for a way to rationalize that. You are valid. You don't need any reason to rationalize your validity. That being said, we all make mistakes and can be incorrect, but your wants and needs and feelings are simply real. Sorry if that was rude. It is rude to psychoanalyze people, but that is my honest opinion, and it's what I think whenever anyone says anything like that. Me thinking, I can see the seams of your bra in that outfit. I wonder if women know you can see the seams. It is weird they make bras like that. Bras are so strange. Must be uncomfortable to wear a bra. I remember those bras in the 50s that were pointy. Why did they like that? Made boobs look like combs. Don't know why they put wires in those things. That is odd. Wonder if they are needed to hold a heavy boob. I imagine if things go wrong with the bra wire, you could get stabbed in the tit. Wonder if that happens. What did they wear before bras? Corsets, I guess. That could not have been comfortable. I remember someone saying they could not breathe in those things and would get dizzy. Wonder if that was true. Ancient Romans didn't have corsets. But they didn't make a big deal out of women's tits showing, so they probably didn't need bras. Cave women probably had their tits out and nobody cared. It is weird how big a deal it is with keeping boobs covered these days. I wonder how this came about. Some cultures today don't cover their boobs. So are they not attracted to boobs then? What would they find sexy? Probably butts. So if women walked around with nothing but leggings on, I bet legs would be the thing everyone was turned on by. Still, don't those seams chafe? What did cave women do for periods? There must have been something. Maybe a wad of rolled up dried grass or something. That must not be comfortable. How absorbent is grass? Can't be enough to use for periods. Maybe that is why we started growing cotton. Bet that would have worked. Her. What are you thinking? Me. Oh, you look great in that outfit. I learned a long time ago that any woman who attempts to incite a violent confrontation between myself and someone else is not a person worth my time or effort. I fell for it once when I was a teenager, got my asses kicked, and lost the girl anyway. After that, nothing turned me off faster. A girl could be a 10 and instantly turn into a 12. My personal safety isn't a game for you to play. Before the fight, I was scared of losing her. After she was gone, it was like a ton of bricks off my shoulders. Couldn't have been happier to be rid of her. A version of this phrase, man up, ended my 10-year relationship. I'd literally just started my own business that also was helping people through depression and suicidal times. She said this to me after screaming at me for an hour on her lunch break after I had gone to see her. I was a little bitchy to her, to be honest, would just stay quiet and take her physical, emotional, financial and mental abuse for at least 6 years, but for some reason it was this phrase which drove the nail into the coffin. I realized she didn't respect me, was comparing me to other people, and had no decorum in communication. It was just this that switched my brain into realizing it. That same day, I went home, packed everything, and left, opened up to my friends about how she treated me, and they had no idea. I then went back to university, became a highly valued student, have been doing side gigs whilst at university, and met a woman that treats me with dignity, respect, and communicates properly. I think we need to hear this so we know when the faff to leave. My rule is straightforward, and it was my wife's family that tried doing this to us by jumping us with, "Oh well, you have a day off," so clearly we told insert people you are free to help them move. I would reply to with, "What's number?" then explain, "Yeah, we didn't agree to this. They asked us last second and I can't, I'm off, and I barely know you, and my wife isn't related to you, so no I won't be there." Eventually, they started refusing to give me their numbers. What happens next? I just don't go. Then they start harassing my wife about how bad it's making her look, so I started showing up, explaining how this was my wife's family's fault directly in front of them, and ending it with, "Well, it's a very bad look to sign up people for things they didn't agree to," and leaving. They fucking stopped. The rule? I do not do anything for someone but what I agree to. If you add something or suddenly forget something, and, lol oopsie this is going to take an extra 3 hours, I reply with, "Well call me when you get that done," and leave. I don't do that shit. This is what it's like when people think you're good with computers. Even when I explain, "I don't really know how to fix your shit off the top of my head, I would have to Google it," same as you could do, they try to counter with, "But you're good with that kind of stuff." Good at what kind of stuff? Reading, following clearly explained step-by-step instructions complete with simple illustrations. Half the shit people want me to fix, or take a look at, isn't any more complicated than following the directions on a box of hamburger helper. I think it's just weaponized ignorance where they play dumb at things to get other people to do it for them. My wife never ever asks me what I'm thinking. I thanked her for it the other day. My ex used to ask it all the time. So to be a jerk out of the blue at dinner, she asked me what I was thinking, so I told her, "You remember that time when we cut that sick bush out of the backyard?" Yeah, so I was thinking about how we did it by hand, and I ended up hurting my shoulder. Because just now when I picked up my beer, I got a slight shooting pain in my neck. That reminded me of that movie we watched a few days ago, where the zombie was walking around with their head hanging half off of their broken neck. Which reminded me of that time in Shaun of the Dead, you know, with the zombies. Anyway, they were singing White Lines, you remember that? Yeah, so I was thinking of that song because I was like 10 when it came out, and I had this really cool dog who I got when I was 10, and we liked playing in the backyard, and he liked to play around and hide in a bush just like the one we cut out of our old place. She replied, "That's it. Let me see if I can get the neighbor to help you fix that. I'm pretty handy around the house, not a professional, but I get fix most things with a little bit of time and effort." When my wife and I had our first kid, there came a day on the weekend when the door to the playroom our daughter was in got jammed. I'm not ever really sure what happened. I think the knob failed and she started freaking out. Imagine a baby in a room all alone. We couldn't get it. The sky was on fire. Hell had broken though, the street and demon we flying out. We needed to get her out now. It took me about 5-10 min to just figure out what the hell happened. Was the door pinned? Was the mechanism jammed? While I was working on that, out came the phrase, and before I could look back she was gone. I'm still working to wiggle out the pins in the door when the neighbor comes next to me, hovering. "What are you doing with that? No, that's not right, you should do this. Let me try." I was so mad I just backed off and said go for it, all the while looking at my wife. In the end, the neighbor literally pried the door casement off, wrecking the mechanism and banging up the door. But it was open. The neighbor patted me on the back and left me with a horrible mess to fix and clean. Never again. I witnessed this one happen. Some lady dropped her phone in the grocery store and a dude tracked her down at the register to give it back to her. He politely got her attention with a tap on the shoulder. After several "excuse me" were ignored, finally she turned around with "I have a boyfriend," and dude handed her the phone and said, "Let him know his bitch girlfriend dropped her phone," but a nice stranger returned it to her and walked away. Sounds like one of those, and then everyone claps stories, and I would likely not believe it if I didn't witness it with my own eyes. I kind of wanted to go have a beer with that guy after the exchange. I can never think of smart comebacks like that in the moment. I used to do this, but then people started calling me a bichichi. It's hard to work on tact, so now, just profusely apologize and preface anything I say with like 5 layers of, "I don't mean this to sound as rude as it is going to, Like last week, I wanted to ask my friend if he'd ever had a job before, but I couldn't say it without sounding like I was judging him, so I just said, "Hey, I don't mean this to sound as rude as it's going to, and it's totally okay if you haven't. I mean, I haven't. So like no judgment, I don't care. I mean, but like it's your life, and I understand you're in school, and everything, and you should do what you want. I've got a small PP, and in my friend group, I make self-deprecating jokes about it. Well, basically this gets out to a lot of girls, and becomes part of my pickup routine. Girls end up wanting to see it, which leads to. And also, they are expecting much smaller, so aren't as dissipated. So one day, this girl sucks me off and goes, "Well, you're not bad," which made me chuckle before she added, "I mean you're small. Like I'll be real, you're smaller than most other guys, but you're not that small like I thought you'd be." She was trying to be nice. We had fun, then I ghosted her. Got me right in the feels. I actually heard it frequently on my last job. Not usually all, but the rest of the sentiment was often said. I also couldn't sit down and eat lunch without hearing about something that women had to deal with, and how us men should think about it more. I stayed there way too long, and it actually affected my mental health to the point I still am dealing with it. I know it's not the norm. I worked in a women-dominated place before that, and do now, and have zero issues like this, but Lord, I still am super sensitive to a lot of this stuff. I'm trying to get over it because it's not fair to women who don't do this all the time, but I'm usually really on edge around women now. I still have this issue after 14 years of marriage. Every sensible part of my brain says it is fine, but there is always that one voice in the back of my mind. A different note though, this seems to be changing in the newer young adults, and hear tons of verbal altercations, and none of the guys have ever let a little dick joke fly. When they end up in sex conversations, none of them are really talking about sizes or anything, and the couple times I ever heard one even say anything about being smaller, or average or anything, they all sit there and stare like, why does that matter? Glad that this part of our lives is becoming a non-issue. Any variation of being called creepy. Look, I get it, there's lots of creepy dudes out there, and they suck, which is why you shouldn't throw it around and have some dude you like second-guessing himself. I went to university with a girl who by all accounts liked me, and I liked her. Walk by a class and see her throw the door and wave. See her later and she tells me, that was a really creepy wave. Despite how many times she tried to tell me she was joking, I just couldn't get past it. Know someone like this, and she'd say this sort of shit in front of her new husband. She even claimed her own philosophy is, men are trash, and this was right in front of him when she introduced him to a Zoom I was on. And she just got pregnant too. For someone who seems to care a lot about social causes like fighting homophobia and anti-black racism, she definitely sounds like a great future mother of a boy. Thankfully, my current girlfriend doesn't do this, but don't ever say you trained your boyfriend or even friend to do something. Friendships and relationships are a great way to have a different perspective and take things on in different ways. To say you trained your friend or boyfriend is incredibly dehumanizing and makes you seem incredibly narcissistic and manipulative. Plus, you didn't train your boyfriend to use conditioner, you just made him realize that even though he doesn't think it's significant in his value system, it isn't worth the fact you keep bugging him about it.